instead of zipper being centered, it's just on one side of the panel. So it could be either side, doesn't matter. It depends on what you're going to be using it for. If it is on the sleeve that you're using, so it's going to be reverse of each other. But with this, with the previous one, we had to stitch the seam first, be able to trim the seam off. With this one, we're not going to seam it together first. We're just going to use one panel to stitch the zipper into and then use the other one to finish it. So I'll show you how that works. Again, I'm going to just measure my zipper opening. I'm going to go right below my zipper stop in here, even 1/8 of an inch lower as well, so just to make sure that I'm not hitting the zipper stops, the metal part of the zipper. There is sort of a calculation you need to do. There is kind of a calculation you need to do for this one, because the way this works, the zipper here becomes part of your garment and part of your seam allowances. So the zipper has to end up to be like this, which is sewn on this side and has to end up with the edges together with the fabric. Okay, so that requires a little bit of calculation. Let me just run and stitch on the zipper so you can see my stitch line on the zipper, so you can take it from there. So if I run stitch here, I'm putting my zipper foot or the foot right against the zipper, the metal part of the teeth, and I just ran that stitch just for you to see where my stitch line is going to be. That's what that spacing that foot is giving me. So when and the other side, I would do the same thing just for you to see my stitch line. Okay, then I'm going to place my zipper right on top with the face up like this to the edge, like that. So you can see that on this side of the zipper, where I have to stitch it into this piece, that's where my stitch line is going to be, and then I'm going to mark where the stitch line is on the fabric according to that. So like this, if I line it up with this edge lining up to the fabric, I'm going to mark this here as my stitch line. Let me see. Yeah, this here as my stitch line. But also this is my bottom of the zipper. I'm just going to continue on with this just to show you where my stitch line is going to be. That is going to line up with this. Now, when I want to stitch this, you will know when you watch the video. If I'm stitching this, I have to flip it down and use this side to be stitched here. And I'm trying to line up my stitch line on the zipper with the stitch line that I have on the fabric. Let me just slide this down. I line it up like this. So I keep lining up my stitch line on the zippers with the stitch line that I draw on the fabric, and I stitch this down. Again, pull this up. Pull a little bit more so I can clear my way. Okay, so but my triangle should be inside. I still have to slash this. My triangle towards the needle is going to be up to into the zipper part. So if I slash this from the top towards the needle, make sure you go under, don't cut the zipper, and slash it all the way into the needle. So you're going to end up with this notch. So that allows you to rotate the zipper all the way down like this. Line up the zipper into the edge, clear this, all this, pull them out, and stitch the bottom of the zipper. So that gives you this. Pretty much that's what I'm doing. You can all see. So this edge of the zipper is lining up to the edge of the fabric now. Let's say if you do your math and calculation right, and you draw your line on the zipper, draw your line on the fabric, you should be able to match it up so these line up together. And that also, it depends of how big of a seam allowance you have here. In here I based it on like a 1/4 inch or 3/8 seam allowance. If your seam allowance is bigger in here, so obviously your zipper has to be shifted back to be able to get that spacing with the zipper and line up with the seam allowance. So based on this seam allowance, that's how it's going to work. Okay. So now with the other piece, all I have to do, just grab it, put it right on top of the zipper, line it up with the seam allowance. This is the second layer. Line it up to the seam allowance and stitch it all the way through to the other side of the fabric. You can use so this way, your zipper is going to be on one side and the other side is just a straight edge seam.